On the morning of March 3, 2026, Filipinos woke up to panic. TV screens flashed. Philippines declares national emergency. Only 45 days of oil left. The news exploded on social media. Gas stations saw long lines. Drivers actually slept in their cars, desperate to fill up before the price went even higher. The government's announcement came after a tense night. War had erupted in Iran, shutting down the vital Strait of Hormuz. For the Philippines, every drop of oil now counted. The entire country braced for a crisis. Within hours, prices doubled. By sunset, public buses ran half their normal routes. The news was clear. There would be no quick fix. Every Filipino understood. This was a countdown. The world watched. Other nations had months of oil stored away. The Philippines had just 45 days. In the early hours of March 4th, President Reyes urgently summoned her cabinet for an emergency meeting. The gravity of the situation was clear. Never before had the nation faced such a sudden and severe threat to its daily life. By noon, the government made a historic announcement. Fuel rationing would begin immediately, a measure not seen in decades. Each vehicle, regardless of size or purpose, was limited to just 15 liters of fuel per week. Long lines formed at gas stations, with anxious drivers hoping supplies would last. The military was swiftly deployed to guard fuel depots and prevent panic or theft, their presence a stark reminder of the crisis. Schools across the country closed their doors, instructing students to stay home for their safety and to conserve fuel. For many office workers, work from home became mandatory overnight, transforming living rooms into makeshift offices as city streets emptied. The impact was immediate and harsh in Manila. Jeepneys, the city's lifeblood of public transport, stopped mid-route, leaving thousands stranded. In Palawan, fishermen watched helplessly as their boats sat idle at the docks, unable to buy the diesel they needed to work. Food prices soared overnight, jumping 22%, as the cost of transporting goods skyrocketed and vendors struggled to keep up. By March 6th, rolling blackouts swept through cities. Power plants, starved of fuel, could not keep the lights on, plunging neighborhoods into darkness. By March 10th, over 6,000 factories had either cut shifts or closed entirely, leaving countless workers without income. Labor unions sounded the alarm, warning that mass layoffs were imminent if the crisis continued. Hospitals, desperate to keep life-saving equipment running, pleaded for diesel to power their backup generators, fearing for their patients' lives. At the ports, containers filled with imported food and essential goods sat untouched. Trucks had no fuel to collect or deliver them. With each passing day, the crisis deepened. Families grew more anxious, and uncertainty spread through every neighborhood. Every government press conference grew more desperate, as officials struggled to reassure a worried public. The 45-day clock was ticking relentlessly, and every Filipino, rich or poor, felt the weight of each passing hour. While Filipinos watched gas gauges fall, another story unfolded at sea. On March 7th, Chinese Coast Guard vessels surged near Scarborough Shoal. Satellite images showed more ships at Second Thomas Shoal and Mischief Reef. For decades, these places were flashpoints. Now China's presence grew bolder. China did not send warships. Instead, they sent more white hulls, official-looking, but less threatening than Navy ships. Fishermen from Zambales reported being chased off. Philippine supply runs to outposts became dangerous. The message was clear. China was watching and waiting. Each day, the number of Chinese ships increased. Manila's navy went on high alert, but with fuel scarce, patrols became less frequent. Chinese ships lingered longer, testing the limits. International headlines asked, would China seize the moment to push its claims while the Philippines was weak? By March 15th, President Reyes faced two fronts. The first was the energy emergency, keeping lights on, food moving, and hospitals working. The second was the territorial struggle in the South China Sea. The government could not ignore either crisis. Philippine officials spoke of a two-front war. Energy was a fight against time and shortages. The sea was a fight against gray zone tactics, pressure without outright conflict. Both needed resources the country no longer had. The military was stretched thin. Fuel for ships and planes was rationed. Coast Guard patrols dropped to half the usual number. Meanwhile, China increased its presence, knowing the Philippines could not respond to every move. This was how crises multiplied. A country forced to choose between defending its people and defending its territory was at its most vulnerable. History warns us about divided attention in times of crisis. When leaders are forced to split their focus, the risks multiply, and the consequences can be devastating. The pressure of managing multiple threats at once has often led to catastrophic outcomes, as decision-makers struggle to allocate resources and make critical choices under stress. When Germany fought on two fronts in World War II, against Russia in the east and the Allies in the west, it collapsed under the strain. The German military, stretched thin across thousands of kilometers, found itself unable to reinforce one front without weakening the other. This overextension led to disastrous defeats and ultimately, the downfall of the regime. The lesson was clear: double wars, double the danger. Fighting on two fronts doesn't just split armies, it divides attention, resources, and morale. History is filled with examples where divided focus led to defeat, and the cost was often measured in lost territory and shattered lives. A more local example came in January 1974, when the world's attention was fixed on Southeast Asia. The region was already in turmoil, and every decision carried enormous weight for the countries involved. South Vietnam tried to protect the Paracel Islands from China, sending its navy to defend these remote but strategic outposts. The confrontation at sea was tense and dangerous, with both sides aware that control of the islands could shift the balance of power in the region. At the same time, it was losing the war on land. South Vietnam's forces were stretched thin, fighting a relentless enemy at home while trying to defend distant islands. The government faced impossible choices, and its military was pushed to the breaking point. China saw its chance and took control of the islands while South Vietnam struggled elsewhere. With South Vietnam's attention divided, China moved quickly and decisively, seizing the opportunity to establish a permanent presence in the Paracels. The islands have never been recovered. Today, they remain under Chinese control. A lasting reminder of what can happen when a nation is forced to fight on multiple fronts and cannot defend all its interests at once. For the Philippines, the warning is obvious. The lessons of history are not distant, they are urgent and relevant. Divided attention can open the door to irreversible losses. When a nation is busy fighting one crisis, enemies may strike on another front. Whether it's a natural disaster, political turmoil, or economic hardship, adversaries often wait for moments of weakness to make their move. Energy and territory are not separate, they connect in moments of weakness. Control over resources and strategic locations can shift quickly when a country is distracted, and the consequences can last for generations. History shows that timing can decide who wins and who loses the South China Sea. The fate of nations can hinge on a single moment when attention is divided and opportunities are seized by those who are ready. Let's walk through the numbers and see how quickly a nation can unravel when the oil runs dry. The story begins with data, cold, hard facts that would soon become headlines, and then daily struggles for millions. On March 3rd, the country's oil reserves stood at 45 days. That meant, at the current rate of consumption, the Philippines had just over 6 weeks before the tanks would run empty. By March 13th, just 10 days later, half the gasoline stations in Manila were already dry. Long lines snaked through city streets. Tempers flared, and frustration grew as drivers waited for hours, often leaving empty-handed. Diesel prices soared to 180 pesos a liter, triple what they had been just weeks before. For many, filling up a tank became an impossible luxury. As desperation set in, black market vendors emerged, selling fuel from cans in the shadows of Manila's back alleys. People paid whatever they could, just to keep moving. By March 20th, the countdown was real, only 25 days of oil left. The sense of urgency was everywhere. Shipping companies canceled routes to Visayas and Mindanao, ferries sat idle, and goods stopped flowing between islands, isolating communities. Food shortages grew in Cebu, as deliveries slowed and shelves emptied. People lined up for hours, hoping to buy basic necessities. Supermarkets began rationing cooking oil and rice. Each family received only a small share, forcing many to go without. By March 30th, just 15 days of oil remained. The government met in crisis, searching for solutions as the reserves dwindled. Government convoys moved fuel under armed guard, protecting every drop as if it were gold. Security became as important as supply. On April 7th, hospitals in Baguio and Davao warned they would run out of generator fuel in 48 hours. Factories shut down, sending workers home and halting production. Some provinces endured 18-hour blackouts, with families relying on candles and flashlights to get through the night. On April 14th, the government pleaded for help from neighbors in the US, hoping for a lifeline as the crisis deepened. The countdown was more than numbers. It was a daily reminder of how fragile modern life had become and how quickly it could unravel. With every passing day, hope faded, and China's confidence grew. The world watched, uncertain what would come next, as the Philippines faced its darkest days. Not every country suffered the same fate. Singapore, for example, had over 90 days of oil stored. Japan and South Korea had even more, enough for more than 6 months. Their buses still ran, their factories stayed open, and they could just wait out the crisis. Malaysia and Thailand had smaller reserves, but still enough to last 60 days. They quickly arranged extra shipments from Indonesia and Australia. None declared a state of emergency. Meanwhile, the Philippines stood alone. Its reserves were too small, its imports too far away. When the world's supply chain broke, it had no cushion. While neighbors managed, the Philippines scrambled. This was not just bad luck, it was bad planning. And, rivals like China noticed. China did not move quickly. Its leaders watched and waited. Beijing knew the Philippines was desperate. On April 10th, Chinese diplomats quietly offered talks on joint energy exploration. If Manila eased up on maritime patrols, the timing was perfect. The Philippines needed fuel. China wanted legitimacy for its claims. Manila hesitated, but pressure mounted. Each day, Chinese ships lingered longer near disputed reefs. Each week, local politicians urged compromise. China's strategy was patience, not invasion, but pressure. Not war, but waiting for Manila to blink. Beijing had seen this before. In 2012, with Scarborough Shoal. In 2016, after the Hague ruling, they played the long game, moving step by step. The weaker the Philippines grew, the more tempting China's partnership sounded. China's South China Sea playbook is simple. Build presence, not war. Coast Guard ships become permanent fixtures. Small structures appear on reefs. Fishermen get protection from Chinese patrols. Each year, China's hold grows stronger. This is not new. In the 1990s, China built on Mischief Reef. In 2012, it took Scarborough Shoal. It never fired a shot. Instead, it waited for moments of chaos, domestic unrest, natural disasters, or, now, energy crises. China prefers slow advances. When rivals are strong, it waits. When they are weak, it pushes. The world's attention drifts. China's ships remain. The map changes not with bullets, but with patience. This is the long game, and for now, it works. China learned something vital in 2026. Energy insecurity makes rivals desperate. Maritime pressure works best when a country is fighting another crisis. War is not needed, just patience, presence, and perfect timing. The Philippines has a choice. It can invest in reserves, build alliances, and prepare for the next crisis. Or it can remain exposed, always one shock away from disaster. China will watch and wait for the next opening. The lesson is clear. Weaknesses invite pressure. If nothing changes, the Philippines will face this playbook again and again. The struggle for the South China Sea is not just about reefs or oil. It is about who is ready when crisis strikes. The world is watching. The countdown never really stops.